fact is, none of the money that comes out of our community comes back into our communities. We send out billions of dollars a year to cable companies for monopolies they control, and the same price they pay in Beverly Hills, we pay in South Central. But it's a higher percentage of price. We're given entertainment, but not knowledge. And there's a difference. We need to have the knowledge that goes with growing in a society and taking advantage. People come here from all over the world and can make businesses grow. Why can't we? We can. But we need to have the knowledge that goes with making a business grow, with making a business be developed, with making our money work for our own communities and ourselves. Because when it works for our community, it works for us because we're all better off. We're safer, we're well protected, and our children have a future.
Now that it's been almost a quarter of a century since cable has hit mainstream America, how do you look at the cable industry?
I see the cable industry like I see the entire media industry. All media has been consolidated into the ownership of 6 major corporations. From 55 major corporations in 1980-85, there are now 6 major corporations that control all media. And they become controlling of, for example, BET is owned by Viacom. BET is not owned by black people, and therefore their interest is in profit, not in expanding the knowledge of black people. The consolidation of media means the destruction fundamentally of the First Amendment. The First Amendment means you can say what you want, but not being able to enter the marketplace where the media is used and how it's developed means that we cannot participate in that marketplace. The time for us to get in there was in 1979, 1980. All opportunities exist in a time frame. They don't exist forever. We've lost that opportunity forever. South Central's children didn't get access to cable until 7 years after the kids in Beverly Hills got it. Who needed more intermediate and vocational education than the people in South Central? Who needed the right to get health care and some sort of knowledge than the poorest people in the community? Why would a city like Los Angeles spend tens of millions of dollars to stop black entrepreneurs from working in the poorest community in the city? Because they're afraid that we're going to say something that is not going to be for their best interest. And it wouldn't be, because they were screwing the black community. Tom Bradley was mayor here, and what happened? We had riot after riot, and it went continually downhill. He did nothing for this community.
For those that are just tuning in, we are talking to business entrepreneur as well as author Clinton Galloway as he talks about his book, The Anatomy of a Hustle, How Cable Television Came to South Central Los Angeles. How have people responded to your book?
I've been very surprised. A lot of people have really responded very strongly and begin to see what has happened in the past and understand that the issues that we were dealing with could have been alleviated to some extent in terms of education. Poverty is an economic issue. My job and training is in finance and in economics. My brother was a doctor. We wanted to bring these type of things to the community. And people in the community now see that they not only didn't get them, but they were denied by the government and by the people they held to be in esteem, to be looking out for our best interests. And so I feel very good about people having responded to it and understanding the issues. And that is what's important to me, is that people understand the issues and see we have to do something. We can't allow things to merely continue along the path they're going, because we're going on a downhill path. We have to reach a point where we say, hey, how do we correct this? The media has gone, the Internet will replace cable as cable replaced the networks. It'll be a few years from now, but it's going to happen. We need to now start positioning ourselves to get information we need as a community, as a people, onto a site that we can deliver that information to rationally and in a good form where people can understand it. When kids don't go to school, when they don't get educated, how are they going to compete for jobs with people who can speak better English in India than we speak in the United States? It's a crime. And it was a crime. But my problem was to have a black mayor and a black federal judge spend time denying the First Amendment rights to an entire community that needed them so badly is a travesty of justice. And that's what I speak of, the travesty of justice that not only goes on when we speak about what others have done to us, but what we have done to ourselves. We went to the United States District Court of Appeals, and we've been to the United States Supreme Court. The United United States Supreme Court ruled 9-0 in our favor, that we were correct about the fact that the city cannot deny access to cable television on a public right-of-way, any more than you can stop a newspaper from being on a corner because you don't like what they say. And when that happened, we came back to the federal court in 1986, and she held the case until 1991. We never got a trial. We never got a trial before the public because she didn't want the information known about what was being done to black America, how badly we were being treated, how our rights were being taken. The other issue I really want to make is the civil rights organizations that are supposed to be watching our rights, the NAACP, the Urban League, they talk about rights, but how can they claim to be interested in rights when the most valuable civil right we have, our First Amendment rights, were decided by the Supreme Court, and they never took a position or said anything about it? How valid can you be in terms of a civil rights organization when you do that? I believe their validity has been clearly compromised.
Speak on it.
And that compromise comes because you are now beholden to a political party that has its own agenda. The agenda of black America has become thirdly to everything else in whatever they're doing. But we are so far down the line that nobody cares about what goes on. They allow crime, illnesses, sickness, lack of education to all run rampant while they protect themselves and their jobs. That can't go on. And that's what I'm trying to say here. I just want people to know what has happened. We saw this 30 years ago, and it's gotten worse since then. And it goes on not only in black communities, but it goes on in white communities. It goes on all over the country. L.A. is just one city. This is the example we use because we knew it, and I knew it intimately. But every city has had this situation. They indicted the mayor of Houston on a racketeering charge over cable.
Wow.
And there have been numerous cases where the Supreme Court has ruled twice. And we were fortunate enough to have our attorney who came out of Oakland, Harold Farrow, who came from Oakland to come to Los Angeles to handle our case, because no firm in Los Angeles was willing to challenge the government here in Los Angeles about this issue. Not one. So we had to go to Oakland to get an attorney to come down here. He just happened to be the top plaintiff attorney in the cable television industry. But we were fortunate in that. And the amount of money that it takes to do this, you know, their whole issue at first was, you know, black people don't have the kind of money. And that's just bull. It's not true. We put up $30 million 3 separate times from a leading investment banking firm, from doctors that we knew right here in Los Angeles, and from the richest man in the world. We had Adnan Khashoggi, who at that point was the richest man in the world, guarantee our backing. They said, we don't accept money from Arabs and red Chinese. That was their statement on the floor of the Los Angeles City Council, to insult Arabs and red Chinese because they wanted to back something that would benefit poor people here in Los Angeles.
Wow. Will Clinton Galloway, author of The Anatomy of a Hustle, How Cable Television Made Its Way to South Central Los Angeles, can you tell people how can they get in contact with you and how can they read more about your book?
We have a Facebook page called Facebook.com/Anatomy of a Hustle. We have a website called The Anatomy of a Hustle. They can go to either of those sites and see what we're talking about. They can see the information. The thing I think we've really tried to do to support our case is we've also posted over 10,000 pages of documents and over 12 hours of the actual hearings that went on with the city so that people can see the travesty of justice that they pretended they were giving. They just pretend that these hearings are just a joke. They tell us that you're bidding by how many things you offer. But when you offer them, they say, no, that's not what you offered. How can you tell me what I offered when I wrote it on paper? They tell me that
right.
We don't, you know, if you offered 110 channels, we say you offered 55. We wrote 110. A number 110 is 110. So we've tried to support the book on the Internet. And if you go to our website, Anatomy of a Hustle, you will also see that, in fact, we've provided the documents to support what we say. The hearings, the court records, the city reports, everything. So, you know, go to Facebook, take a look at us, and make a comment. Tell us what you think. Because my job was to get the information out. My brother had passed a few years ago, and the last thing he asked me to do was to make sure this story got told. Because when people say, well, black people didn't do this, they didn't do that, you can't do anything. You can't have freedom without the tools of freedom. You can't build a house as a carpenter without a hammer and a saw. They took away our tools of freedom and expect us to live like we're free. It doesn't work.
I agree 100%. Well, thank you, Mr. Clinton Galloway, for being with us.
Well, J.R., I thank you, and I appreciate your taking the time to talk to me and allowing us to express our views on the air.
No doubt. Hopefully.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, sir.
Before we get to our next guest, we have